What are your current thoughts on the market?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I started getting into Bitcoin maybe around like I started learning like 2016 to 18 when I was in grad school. I was listening to Preston. The price was a lot lower back then, but I think the biggest difference between like, previous cycles and now is everybody had a lot higher expectations. I think, when expectations don't meet reality, that's when people start to get really upset. And I think that's what we're seeing in Bitcoin. I mean, me personally, I thought we were going to go higher than 125 last year. I mean, especially when we hit over 100K before the halving. I mean, I think everybody was all high and mighty. We saw, TradFi coming in. We see all this money coming in. But I think the reality is when traditional finance starts to come in and financialize a product or attempt to financialize a product, of course, Bitcoin's going to overtake the financial markets in the long run. But when traditional finance comes in, that's when things get a little hairy and don't exactly play out the way everybody thinks, because there's just so many fiat games that they can play. There's derivatives market. There's all these different markets now coming in trying to take a little portion of Bitcoin or, get swallowed up by Bitcoin. That, the volatility isn't quite as there as much and people were selling off. But I mean, I'm as bullish as ever, Robin. If you look at it just at outside of the price and you list everything that happened last year, it's like, how could you not be bullish going forward? So I think it's all just rookies coming in. They bought at 120 and they're like, all right, we've been hearing about this Bitcoin thing for years, and now we finally decided to buy at 120. And now, we're hearing about it because it fell 50%. So
Yeah, it's. I also think about it. There was a comment yesterday. Literally, I read it, and he said like all the negative comments probably bought within the last 12 months of Bitcoin. Now they're disappointed because they were promised 250, 300K, and now they got 60K, 70K, 80K, whatever the price currently is. I think people are just like having a different kind of like the expectations were not met. But I think it's so astonishing for me that we can't focus on the opportunity that the current market really gives us. If you think about the fundamentals being so strong and then the price being down, this is exactly what you want as an investor. Like you want to see, if you think about a company, you want a company that is bleeding in the market and the fundamentals are just like skyrocketing. That's the best possible way to buy in. And with Bitcoin, we just see the fundamentals being as strong as ever, and the price breeding like 50% down or 40, whatever the percentage is from the all-time high. It's astonishing for me to see that.
yeah, I mean, it's like, at the end of the day, Bitcoin's money and we're all going to eventually need it, right? So think about something that, I don't know, people think that they need right now, like toothpaste, right? If toothpaste is normally $5 and you're seeing it at the store at 250, you're probably going to be like, all right, I'm going to need toothpaste eventually. So I'm going to load up on a bunch of toothpaste while it's 50% off, right? But I mean, people just aren't looking at it that way right now. And what I think is actually kind of interesting is when you look at the breakdown of the wallets, like how much each wallet has, Bitcoin is laying out pretty similarly to the way traditional wealth has. And, last dip, I made a couple of videos on this, that the number of wallets with zero point 0.1 Bitcoin, so 10 million sats, actually went down during the dip, meaning people who came in, maybe bought, it was at that time, maybe around $10,000 worth of Bitcoin, see it below that, they sold off. And the amount of institutions with 1,000 or more Bitcoin went up like crazy. So, I mean, what does that mean? It means that all the traditional investors, the TradFi bros, the, big money managers, they're seeing this as an opportunity. And the plebs who we're yelling to at all times, Robin, they're the ones selling off. So I think that, we really need to keep shouting this message that Bitcoin is still the most asymmetric bet you could possibly make. It's a fixed supply asset, and maybe it's all of us here. We haven't gotten through to them yet, Robin, or maybe their conviction just isn't there quite yet. But we need to keep yelling to everybody, especially people that are dealing with inflation, that Bitcoin is a 4 to 5 year asset. I'm meaning like you're going to buy and hold this thing for 4 or 5 years. It's savings technology. all of the little one-liners that you've heard throughout the years. And it's true because, there's a reason why hodl has been the biggest meme in Bitcoin. It's because, for times like this, when it goes down, you're not going to be selling. Don't sell your Bitcoin to BlackRock. Don't sell your Bitcoin to Michael Saylor and Strategy. Like, these guys are going to keep on buying because they're going to have so much money or so much access to the traditional fiat system, where, you and we got to keep holding on to our sats, man. We got to kind of try to avoid selling off as much as possible. So, I think even though the sentiment is negative, I think it's very bullish going forward, and we need to keep hammering this message just to not sell, because there's so many different tools out there where if you need liquidity, you don't need to necessarily sell. Obviously, do it within, some safe rails and everything like that. But, this is when, people get rich. When people got rich in 2008, Blackstone and all these big guys came in and bought a bunch of real estate when everything crashed. And now's your time to do the same with Bitcoin. You just don't need the $100,000 to come in and buy a house. You just need to start DCAing on the way down, and you'll be very happy you did so on the way up.
This is actually the perfect way to look at it. It's if you are understanding Bitcoin and you are convinced of the fundamentals, which you will be if you study it closely and deeply, you see it as a major opportunity. And I think you actually, maybe I'm confused that, but I think you put out some videos on the massive opportunity of even holding a small portion of Bitcoin, and how massive this puts you already in the ranks of Bitcoiners when Bitcoin becomes a major asset in the future. I remember correctly, I think.
Yeah. So like the Bitcoin like wealth, if you kind of look at the amount of the scale, it's actually pretty drastic. Like, in order to be in the top 1% of people, of Bitcoin holders, not just Bitcoin holders, of just people in general, all you need is 0.01 Bitcoin. So right now that's like less than $1,000 worth of Bitcoin, and you'll be, in the 99.9% of people just in general. And, over 95% of the wallets have less than 0.01 Bitcoin. So, I mean, if you really just break it down, all you need now, if price is at 70,000, like $600 to $700 worth of Bitcoin, and you'll be in, you'll be in a class where, essentially it's more rare than millionaires. Actually, I think you only need $1 worth of Bitcoin, and you'll be in a class less than the 62 million millionaires globally. So, I mean, I think that there's like 50 million or 52 million wallets that have Bitcoin just in general. And out of those 52 million wallets, like, all you need is really just $1, and you could be in a more of an elite class or more of an exclusive class than having $1 million net worth, which $1 million when we were kids, that used to mean something, Robin. But unfortunately, that doesn't mean too much right now. I mean, you need to throw around the $1 trillion number to really get people's attention. But, at the end of the day, these $1 trillion markets, they're eventually going to figure out Bitcoin. And Bitcoin is still a very early asset. I mean, it's like $1.5 to $1.8 trillion market cap now. I'm old enough to remember when Bitcoin was a $2 trillion asset, not too long ago, right? So, but I mean, the things that we're seeing just in traditional finance, from the hard assets, gold, silver, all the ways that people used to traditionally obtain wealth. It honestly, like, there's no easier way now to make money where you could do it on the internet. You and I are talking across the world, and there's no easier way to obtain wealth than just to simply buy a small portion of Bitcoin and put it in cold storage, as little as $1, and you'll be in a more of an elite class than the millionaire class. So all you got to do is get off zero and start stacking ASAP.
This is an amazing message, and I love that, because I think everyone that will control their own UTXOs in the future, and for the people that might are confused with UTXOs, it's basically you just having control of actual Bitcoin on the base layer, not on exchange, not on Lightning, not on anything like that, just on the base layer, control over Bitcoin, whatever the amount is, over a dust amount, I would say. So have a little bit, have I mean, put at least like $100 or $1,000 in there if you have that. But even like if you only hold $1 in there, you even are in a massive elite because you are aware of Bitcoin right now and you own Bitcoin right now, which is a very small percentage still. And people don't get that how early we are. I think we always have to make this assumption that people, just because they heard Bitcoin so since like a couple of years now, they think, yeah, like it's been around, it's established, but it's actually not. It's when you if you go out there on the street. I saw today a clip that was really fun. I will not play it because it's German anyways, but it was a German game show, and there was a question where people can get to the next stage here, like want to be a millionaire. I think is a show in America that is called like that. And they got a question: how many Bitcoin are there? And it was like 21 million, 35 billion, or 69 trillion. This, and she went with 69 trillion, and it was like, oh wait, so people really have no clue. Like the most basic foundation, I think almost everyone that is listening to this probably knows that there are 21 million Bitcoin. And if you go out on the street, if you ask 200 people, I think maybe one knows, maybe two people, if you're lucky, knows such a simple fact about Bitcoin. And we're not talking about anything complicated. And so I think we have to kind of reiterate, and your example is amazing for that, how freaking early we are in this whole situation.
Yeah, I was looking it up, so I made sure to get the number right. But it's 48,484,476 wallets have $1 or more worth of Bitcoin. And like I said, there's 62 million millionaires in the world. There's over 8 billion people in the world still, Robin, and we only got just 48 million that have $1 worth of Bitcoin. And it's funny that you bring up, some game shows and other things like that too, because I think, the sentiment was, all right, we've had these ETFs, we have Coinbase, we had, essentially the Super Bowl, not this past one, but the year before, we had so many crypto commercials with Coinbase and all of these other things popping off. I think it's interesting the differences between last year and this year. We had a Coinbase commercial this year, and it was like a karaoke one. And I saw a bunch of videos of people just literally booing and yelling at the TV when they figured out it was a Coinbase ad. So I think, at the end of the day, we're still so early. And if you're buying your Bitcoin on a Coinbase or one of these exchange, sure. I mean, it's great. It gives you access to it. But, the true power of it is understanding that it is a fixed supply asset. And I just don't think humans are able to comprehend that because, I mean, I'm talking to you through this microphone. Maybe there's a fixed supply of these microphones, these laptops here. But, at the end of the day, if we want more, we could just build more, right? The only thing that we can't physically make any more of is Bitcoin. I mean, there's gold, there's silver. We could probably figure out how to make some fake gold in laboratories, fake silver in laboratories. Hell, the Winklevoss twins were telling Dave Portnoy that Elon's going to go and mine gold off of asteroids and some crazy things at one point in time to try to convince him about Bitcoin. So I think, the human mind just can't comprehend actual scarcity. And, that Michael Saylor had a clip not too long ago that said when he first figured out Bitcoin, he was having like cold sweats at night because he was like, when I figure this out, like if somebody else with big amounts of money is actually going to figure this out, they're going to be scooping up at a crazy rate faster than him. And let's just face it, nobody's catching him now at this point. And this is now probably going to be the richest man on the planet just because of how much Bitcoin him and Strategy have. And he was worried about all this at one point in time. So, if Michael Saylor, if all these other people are worried about how much Bitcoin they're able to scoop up, this is the ultimate buying opportunity. And you should just be scooping up. And yeah, like our panel that we did in Bitcoin Amsterdam, we are still so early, Robin. It's crazy.
I love that with Luke also. I mean, I have to get Luke back on the podcast. He was in the meantime on the Beast Games. I don't know if have you watched the Beast Games? Like a very side topic.
Yeah, I didn't watch it, but I did see the pictures of him going around. They called him a crypto content creator. So I mean, just because of that, we're still early, man. They're not differentiating between crypto and Bitcoin still. So, but allegedly, Mr. Beast is getting into Bitcoin. I see, tweets go viral all the time about that. I mean, at the end of the day, I think like we just got to keep making the content, and eventually we'll crack into the mainstream and get there. I mean, we've seen some athletes get into it. We've seen, some other people start to get into it. Some famous celebrities that aren't known for being Bitcoin celebrities start to get into it. So I think at the end of the day, we're still early, but we're cracking in there. So shout out to Luke for the Beast Games, man. I'll have to go and watch it.
I normally don't like those shows, but for some reason I love Beast Games. Like I don't know what it is, but like the social aspect, the psychology aspect of it, it's just like so fun to watch. But I might be the only one here. It's really interesting. You brought up the Coinbase one because I just wanted to note that because I found it funny that Coinbase with their ad is rugging the listeners off the ad of like they are trying to like a fun thing and then they're like, oh, it's Coinbase. You lost all your money with crypto, so sorry, we're rugging you also with that song. It was a fun one. All the reaction videos online, but I think it actually worked a lot. Everyone talked about Coinbase, and we're still talking about it. It was because there are a lot of opinions out there on the Coinbase ad afterwards. Did it work? Was the Coinbase marketing bad? I've seen people talk about that had nothing to do with Bitcoin. And I was like, that's huge. That's huge for like a Bitcoin exchange ad to be so popular and people keep talking about it. And so it was from a marketing standpoint, really, really successful. The only thing that I kind of see when people and Bitcoiners see they had a chance to really promote Bitcoin, had a chance to like put some nice educational material around Bitcoin out there. But nobody would talk about that. Nobody cares about that, unfortunately. So I think they did a good job, even though, yeah, it's a lost opportunity. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, Coinbase is very interesting because, we saw the Super Bowl ad, but I mean, their earnings just came out the other day and they literally did like a TikTok thing where Brian Armstrong's talking and then they had, what is it? One of the old iPhone games just kind of playing through the top as like kind of a distraction while you're listening to the earnings call. But if you actually did listen to their earnings call, Coinbase had one of the worst quarters that they've actually had. So I think, what does that show? It shows that retail, the sentiment that we kind of started off the conversation is very bad because look, for better or for worse, Coinbase is usually a first touch point for a lot of people to come into Bitcoin. And I think, at the end of the day, when they start to come into Bitcoin, they get bombarded with all of these different, shit coins. That's a big problem because of what Coinbase basically encourages. It's like the Robin Hood of crypto, essentially, where, they're gamifying crypto. They're trying to make you pump and dump and buy all these different things. And I think, Brian Armstrong has kind of realized like maybe I made a mistake. I should have gone into Bitcoin and just Bitcoin earlier. But he's getting oh so close to that money printer that it is a little scary, and I have my guard up with him.
The first thing that every Bitcoiner does, and the most important activity that every Bitcoiner keeps on doing, is buying Bitcoin. And I personally use Relay to buy and sometimes also spend or sell my Bitcoin. And there are two main reasons why I do so. The first one is it's Bitcoin only. They do not do any shit coins. They do not do any cryptos, any stocks, or anything else. This is a tool, an app that is fully focused only and solely on Bitcoin. The second one is self-custody. They give you the keys to your Bitcoin the moment you buy them. You never give them the control over your Bitcoin, and you don't have to trust them because you can verify that you and only you have the keys to your Bitcoin. There's no third-party risk. There's no freezing of your assets. There's no rug pulling. There's nothing of that. Download Relay, the app, on your phone, or go to relay.app on your browser and use code Robin to save fees and get cheaper Bitcoin. I want to tell you about something very special to me. It's called microseed. If you hold your Bitcoin in self-custody, and you should, you know how critical it is to secure your seed phrase. You should not have them on paper. You should not have them on anything else than titanium. With microseed, you can engrave your 12 or 24 word seed phrase, the entire seed phrase, onto a 1-inch small washer. Yes, just one washer. All 24 words on that one washer. You can hide that thing everywhere. And even better, you don't need to buy a new kit every time you have to get a new wallet. You can make unlimited backups because microseed is not selling the washer. Microseed is selling the device that stamps the washer. So you get the full kit with the device, with the washers, with the hammer, with everything you need to get started today, and you can make with that unlimited amount of backups. Go now to microseed.io.